And it was only going to be a couple weeks. You know, she was going to get better and come right back home. And it turned into years.
Louise Little would remain at Kalamazoo for the next 26 years. The 13-year-old Malcolm watched as the courts split up his family, assigning the younger children to foster homes in Lansing and sending him to a white community 10 miles away.
In the past, the greatest weapon the white man has had has been his ability to divide and conquer. If I take my hand and slap you, you don't even feel it. It might sting you because these digits are separated. But all I have to do to put you back in your place is bring those digits together.
Here was a man who, in the 8th grade in Michigan, a school where I think he was the only black in his class and one of the very few in the school, had been an outstanding straight A student, you know, who had been, in fact, the president of his class. And all the others were white in the 8th grade. Obviously, he had to be exceptional to be those things. And then you had the Malcolm who had left school and who had gone to Roxbury, Massachusetts, where he had gotten his first exposure to what might loosely be called hustling.
Myself a little hustler up in Roxbury in those days. And this particular day, you know, Malcolm X had come into Boston and he had on his zoot suit with the wide brim hat with the long 3/4 length coat with the chain that went down to your ankles. I don't know, the last time I recall, Cab Calloway used that outfit for his stage uniform.
Now, when Malcolm left Lansing, he had nothing but an old square suit on. White man suit, as I call it. When he came back from Boston, oh, Lord, Malcolm had a zoot suit on and a wide brim hat, a chain from his hat down into his lapel, and he was the talk of the town. Everybody was talking about Malcolm.
And then when he was dancing on the floor and he was floating around, those pants were like he was a floating balloon. And that coat was like a wing. The way he'd be dancing and flying around with that big 10-gallon hat on and the chain flinging. And this used to really shake up the girls.
When you do, you'll not get to into killer, dilla, thriller squad. It's a new move squad. It's the best brew squad.
In Boston, they call him New York Red. In New York, they call him Detroit Red. He had his hair crooked nose, conked, you know. It was red, and he had pictures of him and Billie Holiday and all these people at that time out there who were just being made known to the rest of the black world.
Malcolm worked the kitchen crew on the New Haven Railroad between Boston, New York, and Washington, D.C. In 1942, he moved to Harlem, and at age 17 began traveling in a whirl of after-hour clubs and small-time hustlers.
He had reached a point to where he said, you'll never make it on these janitor jobs and selling sandwiches on these trains and shining shoes and stuff like that. So you never will get anywhere.
Well, he had the reputation as being a hustler. And he was a street person, but he was a hustler. He was a con man. Yeah, con artist. They call him an artist.
When the white folks came out at night and they wanted black women, he could arrange for them to get them. If they wanted bootleg whiskey, he knew where to get it. If they wanted drugs, he knew where to get it. He made it possible that he knew what they wanted and he knew where to get it, and he would be in the middle where he could make a profit off of it. And this is the way he started doing.
Looking back at that time, Malcolm said only 3 things worried him: jail, a job, and the Army. To avoid serving in World War II, he told his draft board that he wanted to organize black soldiers to kill whites. He was judged unfit for the military. Malcolm's gambling and drugs and Harlem nightlife were expensive. He had already been arrested twice for petty crimes. When he moved back to Boston in 1945, he organized a gang to burglarize homes of prominent families. The other gang members included his friend, Malcolm Jarvis, his white girlfriend, Bee, and 2 other white women.
This girl knew that these people were down in Florida at that time of the year. There was nobody home, so we broke into the house and we'd get some of their valuables, and Malcolm would take most of the stuff and pawn it and get money for his gambling habit. After 2 weeks of doing this, that's when the case broke, when he made the mistake of going to the pawn shop to retrieve a watch with over $1,000 that came out of one of the houses, and that's when he was arrested by 3 policemen.
Malcolm Little, Malcolm Jarvis, and the 3 women were charged with breaking and entering. The fact that 2 black men were with white women became an issue in the court.
Malcolm was definitely involved with 2 white women, and this is what made the case so powerful, so outrageous.
The women testified that Malcolm had forced them to participate in the burglaries. The 2 men received a maximum sentence, 8 to 10 years in state prison.
When they sentenced us, I went out of my mind. I reached up and grabbed the bars of the cage and I shook them, almost shook them right up off the floor, and I hollered at the judge and I said to him, "You might as well kill me as to give me 10 years in jail."
Well, I was what you call a mad Negro. I was one. And I knew what I saw was real. I knew there wasn't anything funny about it. I knew that when they laughed all together, they were laughing, that look what we did. We're doing it to the Negro.
Then they had the unintimidated gall to ask the girls before they took them out of there to press charges against us for rape. The girls wouldn't do it.
Malcolm Little was 20 years old, facing 8 to 10 years in state prison. He had wandered far from the Garvey pride and independence his parents had preached. He was now prisoner number 22843.
To have once been a criminal is no disgrace. To remain a criminal is the disgrace. I formerly was a criminal. I formerly was in prison. I'm not ashamed of that. You never can use that over my head. And that he's using the wrong stick. I don't feel that stick. They charged Jesus with sedition. Didn't they do that? They said he was against Caesar. They said he was discriminating because he told his disciples, "Go not the way of the Gentiles, but rather go to the lost sheep. Go to the people who don't know who they are, who are lost from the knowledge of themselves, and who are strangers in a land that is not theirs. Go to those people. Go to the slaves. Go to the second-class citizens. Go to the ones who are suffering the brunt of Caesar's brutality." And if Jesus were here in America today, he wouldn't be going to the white man. The white man is the oppressor. He would be going to the oppressed. He would be going to the humble. He would be going to the lowly. He would be going to the rejected and the despised. He would be going to the so-called American Negro.
Behind prison walls, Malcolm hustled bets, fed his drug habit, and